Hey, how's everybody doing today? So I had an interesting experience. Maybe sheds a little bit more light on not necessarily why people are the way they are here in this area, but just how they are in this area. And I think it's indicative of a bigger problem where I used to think that it maybe was just factions of people who were incompetent. But I'm getting the picture now after trying to conduct business in the community that even general business owners are pretty incompetent around here. Um, Maybe not all of them. I haven't had experiences with all of them, so maybe there are some good ones out there. But in this particular situation here, uh, I've been building a classic Ford car and got engine work done, had a bunch of machine work done, bought all new parts for the top end and all that good stuff. And so I had an issue when I was assembling it. I got to the point to where I was putting the top end together and was having an issue adjusting the rockers. And come to find out, one of the companies here in town that sold me the parts and did the machine work on the block and installed a few of the pieces and parts and components on the engine block. They sold me the wrong push rods, and so come to find out, uh, what I ended up paying for was not to get the car running. See, when the mechanic that has the car now came to look at my car at this property, told him the issue, told him it was a fresh engine. I was building it. Had an issue with the rockers being adjusted properly. I couldn't get the proper adjustment on them for some reason, and needed an expert opinion because this is my first build. And so I ended up sending the car to two different mechanics. The first mechanic was out in Cambridge because the one or two mechanics in Zanesville that were competent enough, supposedly competent enough to work on these older cars and older engines, were busy and they couldn't get to my car for a couple weeks. So I thought, well, they're busy. I don't want to overwhelm them, and I need to get the car running as quickly as possible. So I sent the car out to a mechanic after talking to them multiple times on the phone, and it's a shop called Cosmos in Cambridge. So I explained the whole situation to him on the phone about the car. Needed a last few parts put on the engine. Uh, Needed the rockers adjusted and need to get the car running and driving. And then I also needed the tailgate to be worked on. I needed a piece of glass cut for the tailgate and installed in the tailgate, and I had all new seals and felt and everything else for the window channels, and so I needed all that put together with a new piece of glass so I could secure the car. And I could do it myself, but it would take me a long time. And I figured, uh, if I'm able to, I might as well, hire somebody, hire an expert that knows how to do these things and work on these cars, and maybe they could speed up the process a little bit. And so that was my intention, was to get the work done a little bit quicker rather than me figuring it out, first time novice. Um, I'm mechanically inclined, of course, but I'm not an expert when it comes to these older cars, and so my intention was to send it to an experienced mechanic that could work on it and do the work. That told me that they could do the work. Um, of course, they always promise, "Oh yeah, it's no problem. Yeah, I can handle that. I can take care of that. No, no problem." Talking about the money and the budget. Oh yeah, between $1,000 $2,000 to do all the work. Oh yeah, that's doable. So, um, but then when it comes down to actually doing the work, it's excuses and, oh well, this happened and that happened and this happened and that happened, and well, and it's funny because every time I go to look at the car at the shop where it was at, whether it's whichever shop it's at, um, they were never working on the car when I show up, and of course I would never tell them I was going to show. I would just show up, to get a status and see what was going on. And of course, they're never working on the car. But when I talk to them on the phone, they're always working on it. They're working on it until they're blue in the face, and they can't, all this. It's just excuses after excuses after excuses. And I think what the reality is that my experience with the public servants of Zanesville, it's indicative of the area. There's something about this area. I don't know if it's the education system. I don't know if it's something in the water, the air. I mean, who knows? Could be a number of different things. Could be a combination of different things. But I'm finding that the same level of incompetence and unwillingness to just provide basic services. I mean, as a company or a corporation, especially as an owner operator for a small business, I would think that it would be better for them to provide good quality work in a timely manner, reasonable time frame, so that way they can build up the word of mouth. But it seems like these days they just really don't care. It's like they just pick the gravy and probably work on their buddies' cars and stuff like that. And if you give them any attitude because they're wasting your time, well, then they turn into little prima donnas and don't do any of the work at all. So at this point, I've gone through 2 different mechanics. I've spent $3,000 and 10 weeks, just over 10 weeks. And between the 2 mechanics, not only could neither one of them put the last few parts on the engine and actually get the car running. I mean, they might have managed to put the parts on, but they couldn't manage to get the car running right. They couldn't figure it out for some reason. I mean, it's pretty simple. It's a naturally aspirated motor. Just a carburetor, spark plugs, and gasoline intake. That's typically what it is. Suck, bang, blow on these older engines, the carbureted engines. They're not that complicated. So, 2 different mechanics, 10 plus weeks, $3,000, and I have a car that's not running properly with no glass. Not only no glass at all, but I have no idea what condition the tailgate's in. I'm waiting to get the car delivered at this point. The tow truck should be showing up anytime. So what I'm going to do, I recorded the conversations with the mechanics. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to post the recordings. And I'm going to let you all judge. Judge how these business owners are talking to me, the customer, the paying customer. It's not like they're doing me a favor. It's not like they're a buddy. They're trying to, squeeze my car in for free. No, I'm paying them what they agreed on with me as far as what they would want as far as a payment to do the work. And now I have barely even half the work, not even half the work, maybe a third at best of the work completed. But of course, they still want their money. If I don't pay them, well, they'll just put a mechanics lien on my car, and then I won't be able to get my car back at all. See how it works? See how the fraud works? They say it's no problem. Oh yeah, I can do that. They make all the promises under the sun. Oh, that's easy. Oh yeah, I can do the typical sales pitch bullshit. And then when it comes down to it, 2 weeks, 8 weeks later, they've been paid, and not only can they not actually complete any of the work, but then on top of that, they try to extort me for more money on top of the $1,500 that I already paid them to do work that they didn't complete for a battery. So apparently $1,500 doesn't include a $80, $90 battery, $100 battery. So that's how greedy these bastards are. And again, I don't know if it's just sheer stupidity, or if this is just a type of business that they're used to doing out here in these like hick areas that it's probably just a lot of good old boy shit where they work for their buddies, they do work for their buddies, and it's just all that good old boy I don't know what you want to call it. bullshit. Um, frankly, I'm not looking to become friends with these people. I mean, I'm friendly, but when I am conducting business with them, it's almost like, see, I think that's what it is. They can't separate business and friendship. And so they mistake kindness for weakness. They think that being friendly and cordial is somehow like they're doing me a favor. But it's like, no, I'm just being friendly and polite because that's my nature. That's what I've been taught since as far back as I can remember. Not only from other people, but also myself. That's my character. That's who I want to be. And so I become friendly with people just for posterity and so forth, and um, just to be friendly. And then all of a sudden, it turns from me hiring them to do work to they think that they're doing me a favor, I guess because I'm friendly with them. And so then at some point, I've got to put my foot down and say, you know what, we can't mix the two. It's business is business. I'm not hiring you to do work to become my friend. I'm hiring you to do work so you can get the work done and get paid, and I can get my car back, and we can go on about our business. If eventually down the road or something like that, I take my car back multiple times and get more work done, and a friendship comes of that business relationship, well, that's a whole different story. But as it stands, it's almost like these people can't separate the two, and so they look at me as if I'm their friend and they're doing me a favor. I was like, no, 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 no. I'm a customer and I've paid you to do work. And now when you're making excuses and bitching and moaning at me, the customer, as to why you can't do the work that you promised that you were going to do, and you said, oh, yeah, it's no problem. I can do that. I can handle that. Yeah, it's no problem at all. And then all of a sudden it becomes a problem. And the here's the funny part, as if it wasn't funny already. So they have a problem. The mechanic has a problem with the engine. Can't get the engine running right. But does he bother to work on the tailgate? No, of course not. Does he bother to order the glass in the 8 weeks that he's had the car? No, of course not. You'll hear it on the recording. He's not worried about that fucking tailgate. Convenient for him. Yeah, it's nice that he's not worried about the tailgate. Because the customer, was asking him about the tailgate. Because I'm concerned about the tailgate because that's what I hired him to do. That's one of the things. Put the last few parts on the engine and get the engine running and get the car driving and get the glass, order the glass, and put the glass in the tailgate. There was those two things, basic things. Get the engine running and the car driving, basically. It's kind of one, if you will, and then get the glass for the tailgate and put it in the tailgate. So work on the engine, get the engine running, work on the tailgate, get the tailgate together. Those are the two things. So in the 8 weeks that he had the car, not only did he not get the car running right, he couldn't get the engine running right. All these excuses, and now he's blaming me. Now it's my problem, my fault. When he had plenty of time. I mean, he had 2 months that he could have, well, you'll hear it in the conversation, he could have taken the water pump off and the timing cover to look at the timing chain if that was the supposed problem. He had 8 months to do that, but no, he sits around on his hands and works on other people's cars while mine's sitting there waiting to be worked on for some reason. I mean, maybe it's because he's already been paid. That'd be my guess. There's no incentive because he's already been paid. See, I thought at one point, at about the 5 week marker, that maybe the reason why he wasn't working on my car was because he's maybe having to pay for parts out of pocket or something like that. So when I dropped off the car, I gave him $500 down on the work, so that way we'd have some money. He would have some money to pay for parts that he needed to get, if any. I supplied almost all the parts that he needed. So gave him $500 when I dropped off the car. And then 5 weeks later, when I noticed that there was hardly any progress on the car, but he promised me up and down, oh, he's trying to figure it out, he's working on it. And I'm thinking, okay, well, maybe we'll speed it up a little bit. Maybe he's just, he doesn't have enough money to do the work. And he's just not wanting to admit that. So I give him another $1,000. or I give him 1,000. So 1,500 total. We originally talked the budget was between 1,000 and 2,000. He said he could work with that budget, and so when I gave him the $1,000, 1,500 total, 500 when I dropped off the car, and then that $1,000 at the 5-week marker. So basically, this should be enough to cover everything. This should be enough to get the car put together and running and get it back to me. So we were on that same page at that point. But then after the fact, it changed. All of a sudden, well, I had to buy a battery. Okay, well, I gave you $1,500. Does $1,500 not cover a damn battery? I mean, other than putting what 2 or 3 parts, 3 or 4 parts on the engine, and I don't know. I guess he had to replace the line for the oil pressure gauge because nobody paid attention. I guess it was a plastic line, and I guess it fell down on the header and melted. You know, of course, that's not their fault. So he had to replace that too. So I mean, you know, there's just a few little things that he had to do, but I mean, for crying out loud, he had 2 months, 2 months to do the work, $1,500, and it's nothing but excuses and complaints and all this blaming me. It's all my fault, and it's just it's the typical bullshit that you get from mechanics, and really any bullshitter these days. When you know they, like most mechanics, that you can't trust them. You can't trust them. And when, you know, like this situation here, you'll hear in the conversation, I mean, this guy is just, what an asshole. Telling me that I need to let him do what he wants to do. And like, okay, so you just want to spend my money however you want to spend my money. Okay, that's not how it works. If you can't do the work that I hired you to do in the first place, why the hell do you think I'm going to have you do any other work? I mean, that's how just disconnected from reality these people are. But enough of my rambling about it. I mean, I could talk about till I'm blue in the face because I can't understand how people can be this just damn dumb and mistreat people this way. Paying customers. This is how they had. I mean, and not to mention, just real quick before I end this recording, not only did I have that situation, but also Enterprise Rent-A-Car. And I don't know if it's just indicative of the times that we're in, and maybe this is everywhere's like this, or maybe this place is just a little extra special, if you get my drift. So Enterprise Rent-A-Car, because my car's in the shop, I wanted to rent a truck. And so I reserved a truck last week, gave them plenty forward notice, tried to call the Enterprise location here in town multiple times throughout since Friday last week, trying to get a hold of somebody at the location so they can make sure that they would have a truck for me there at the location, because that's what I reserved. I even called the 800 number, talked to customer service at the 800 number, and let them know that I needed a truck, and I was calling to make sure that a truck was going to be there for me to rent as per my reservation. After all, that is what reservations are supposed to be for. And so the representative on the phone told me that they would send a message to the location, to the manager, and let the manager know to either call me or just make sure that a truck is there for me to rent. So even though I've tried probably 20 or 30 times to get a hold of the location to talk to the manager, conveniently their phones redirect their calls to an automated system that hangs up. They don't answer the phones. And so I couldn't get a hold of anybody to actually not only like tell them verbally, hey, I got this reservation, I need a truck, I need to make sure there's a truck there on the 1st. So I couldn't get a hold of anybody Friday, couldn't get a hold of anybody Saturday. They were closed Sunday, and then they were closed for the holiday, I think, for Memorial Day, Monday. So I tried to call first thing Tuesday. I tried to call Tuesday a couple times. Nothing. Couldn't get a hold of anybody. Automated system, the Enterprise automated system kept hanging up on me. So then I go down there. Today I had the reservation for today, this morning at 9 a.m. So I get down there a few minutes early, and as I'm coming into the parking lot, I'm looking around, and I'm like, okay, there's no trucks here. This is going to be interesting. So I walk in, talk to the representatives, tell them, give them the information, and ask them, hey, is there a truck here? I reserved a truck last week for today. I've called multiple times to make sure that a truck was going to be here. I've talked to multiple representatives to make sure a truck was going to be here. Is a truck here? So after standing there for 45 minutes waiting for these idiots to figure out what the hell they're doing, they tell me that, oh no, there's no truck there. They failed to get a truck there, and then made all these other excuses, and um, it I ended up just walking out. Um, I tried to ask, or I asked multiple times, didn't try. I asked multiple times for the manager's name, asked for a business card with his name on it so I could identify him, so I could file a formal complaint with the corporate office. He refused to identify himself, and then when I asked his coworkers if they could tell me who he is and identify him, they said, "Oh no, we can't. He's our boss. If we give you that information, we'll get in trouble." So that's two. I mean, today specifically, that's two companies that I've dealt with in this area that can't even fulfill their most basic promises of service. Now, granted, one's a large corporation, nationwide, chain enterprise, rent a car. I don't know if that's a franchise or if it's a corporate-owned store for the enterprise, but the mechanics are mom and pop shop mechanics. They're not corporate-owned. They're not a chain. So, I can't say that it's the mom and pop business owners that are acting this way. I can't say that it's the chain owners that act this way for any particular reasons. What I can say is that it doesn't matter which they come from or what their like what the context is of what their job is or whatever, or I guess their job description. It makes no difference because a majority of these people, it seems, are just flat out dumb. And I mean, I guess that would make more sense too as I'm talking about that. Uh, you got people out here mowing their grass at 11 o'clock at night, pitch black, running mowers, running over sticks and branches and all kinds of stuff.